This is my intro. There are many others like it, but this one is mine. Hi, this is Dan from Boilerplate Socialism. Thanks for everyone who stayed with me, and thank you for all my new subscribers. Thanks for coming on this journey with me, and thank you for subscribing. And special shout out again to Loch Ness Munster for spirited and lively debate. I really appreciate that. I've just been busy with school. I hope to be posting a little bit more after the New Year's, so we'll see how that turns out. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about democracy. And to open up that topic, I wanted to talk about The Simpsons because that's evergreen. And as we all know, in the West, nothing has been fixed since 1989, so it is really evergreen in the worst way possible. So on one episode of The Simpsons, two aliens named Kang and Kodos took over the bodies of, or they impersonated a couple of presidential candidates. It doesn't matter who they are, really at all. And everyone knows the classic meme, we are neither left nor right, instead we are twirling upwards ever on to freedom. And that opens up to the topic, what is democracy? And democracy is not voting. Democracy is not multiple parties. Democracy, at least in the Greek sense, meant originally power of the people, or rule of the people if you want to be pedantic. As we studied in my Sociology 200 class, democracy is a process rather than, say, one set institution or just an event that happens every 4 years like elections. Now, technically, to be democratic, an institution has to reflect the will of its constituents, or the majority of its constituents, the majority of people under it. For example, corporations, the Republic of Venice and the Vatican all had or did have elections. These were not democratic institutions in any way. Enron was not democratic because its shareholders voted on who would run the company. At no point did they consult the majority of the workers who were working under that company. Same with the Republic of Venice. It was a very limited election held for the aristocracy. In the Vatican, the election is quote-unquote fair, but it's held exclusively by the cardinals. It is not a democratic institution at all. Your local janitor at the Catholic Church in Boston does not get a say on who is the Pope, no matter how small it might be. And I do want to turn this mostly towards Western examples because I am a Western man. I live in Canada, a Western country. And these countries are, at least in popular consciousness, referred to as democratic. And just a few things here. I'm going to compare these to Cuba, and you'll see why in a moment. In the most recent poll that I could dig up, roughly 23% of Americans favorably view the actions of Congress, meaning 3/4 of the population roughly does not at all approve of Congress, either strongly or very strongly disapproves of Congress. And this is, quote-unquote the gold standard of democracy in the world. I live in Canada, where it's a little bit harder to find statistics about popularity of the Parliament, although we do have here in Canada a first-past-the-post system. That's where the person with the most votes in an electoral district called a riding takes the entirety of the seats. So if a person gets 40% of the votes in a riding, they get total control. That means that it excludes 60% of the people who voted one way or another in an election. So in that sense, Canadian elections are profoundly undemocratic, not only in the sense that it doesn't require the support of a party, but it's structured in such a way that, like the American system, it favors two right-center parties. Our system is slightly more flexible. We have a dysfunctional liberal small L party in the form of the NDP here, which is largely ineffective and does nothing. I'll have some links in below explaining that further. Now, I do want to talk about Cuba, and I bring this up because it is a one-party state. Although I will argue that it is in fact more democratic than the United States or Cuba, just because those are the ones closest to me. And the reason being is that the government of Cuba reflects the will of its citizens much more than the multi-party systems of the USA or Canada. And just recently in Cuba, they had a massive referendum regarding the nature of the family and LGBT rights. They had approximately 80,000 town hall meetings on the island, and they radically altered what it means legally to be a family and altered the nature of LGBT law under Cuba. Now, I can't remember the last time in Canada there was 80,000 town hall meetings anywhere. In Cuba in 2019, they had a massive referendum to rewrite the Constitution. When was the last time you were invited to weigh in on the writing of the Constitution anywhere in your part of the world? Now, I know that some people might say these are one-party states, you can't trust what they say. Although, as far as I can tell, like, how do I put this? These nations have problems. I'm not saying that Cuba and places like this, Cuba, Vietnam, and Laos, are utopian countries, only that they are more democratic than the capitalist democracies we have here. In the United States, for example, money is considered free speech. So dollars are speech, and elections can be bought. That's why you have literally sitting senators in the United States who are older than the invention of the chocolate chip cookie. And no, that's not a joke. There's a joke that the Politburo was, a bunch of calcified old men, and yet the average age of Congress today in the United States is actually older than it was in the Politburo. To paraphrase Mr. Rogers, democracy is a verb, not a noun. It is an action. I'm not asking you to believe that Cuba is utopia or perfect, only that it is in fact consulting with its people. It listened to them. And there is no way that Cuba would conduct 80,000 town hall meetings just for the sole purpose of impressing foreign observers who, politically at least in Washington and Ottawa, don't care one way or another what happens in Cuba and want to see regime change there. Now, I'm going to have some links in the description to what I'm talking about here. Again, I'm just very briefly covering this. There's a lot I want to talk about. Like all my videos, I follow a script, although to a degree it's off the cuff. I want this to be something easily digestible, something you can watch on your way to work, stuff like that. But I do look forward to your comments. I honestly do, and even if I don't reply to them, I will be reading them. So I want to thank you for that. So please remember to like and subscribe. Go over the links in the description. If you have anything you want to say in the comments, please do so. I welcome respectful debate. Please do so, and I will see you next time. I don't know when I'll be posting next, but you'll know. So thanks a lot, and click that bell icon to be notified of further posts. Have a great day, and happy holidays, and happy New Year. This is my outro. There are many others like it, but this one is mine.